TikTok has had a complicated history. It's definitely not far from controversy in any way, shape, or form, yet remains prevalent as one of the fastest growing and popular social media of our generation. TikTok is interesting because it essentially brings Vine to the modern age. If you remember Vine, it was a video app back in 2013, shut down during October 2016, where creators were only allowed to create videos that totaled 7 seconds. If you look at the most popular creators on this platform at the time, you'll see a lot of familiar faces you see today, such as Drew Gooden, Danny Gonzalez, TMG, and the Scam Brothers. The appeal of the app that has reintroduced to a new generation through TikTok is a short-form content that is easily accessible with only a swipe of a finger. The content isn't the only thing that entices users back though. Anyone, and I mean anyone, that wants what I say 7 minutes of fame instead of 15 can upload a video to TikTok and have it become viral. The algorithm on TikTok promotes discoverability while also keeping familiarity through the videos a user is shown. Obviously, there are certain trends that you can do that will boost your chances for a viral video that seems to be like almost a holy grail for most users. And that's what we will be talking about today. Trends on TikTok replicate the short lifespan that their videos are modeled after. With the constant refresh of new trends or challenges come absolutely stupid and downright disrespectful ideas. People willing to do whatever to get their 7 minutes of fame. Using a chart made by Reddit user Joshing Official, we're going to be diving into the dumbest and somewhat disturbing TikTok trends. There are definitely some controversial entries in the chart, and I will make sure to put a disclaimer for certain triggers or content warnings for specific entries. Please keep in mind that this is completely based off my interpretation of them and what I think deserves a disclaimer, so not everything will have one. With that out of the way, let's get into this chart. The Devious Lick Challenge was pure theft. The challenge entailed that students steal various items from their institutions such as soap dispensers, signs, or even whole computers. I honestly don't even know how these kids did some of the things, like, were their teachers not questioning why the hell their backpack was in the shape of a perfect rectangle? I mean, the school PCs are massive, at least I remember them being massive, so how they got it home is absolutely beyond me. But anyways, Devious Licks were plaguing America. There was damage being done to school property, and they were absolutely fed up with it. Schools would offer incentives to students who would give up any information about so-called mischievous licks happening within the school. I mean, I don't blame them, and I completely understand why. Schools do not get paid enough to fix these damages, and if they do, they have to go through a bunch of red tape, and it's much easier to get the information out of students instead of fixing it. Speaking of all the damages that they did, the vandalism caused mirrors to be broken, sinks to be misplaced, and restrooms to be closed. Eventually, you got to the point where schools were taking legal action against their own students. 8 students in Kentucky were charged with vandalism and theft due to the trend. The outrage that school districts were having and the chaos coming from the trend caused TikTok to ultimately censor and ban it. I mean, there were even conspiracy theories happening saying that the trend was fabricated to damage TikTok's reputation in the eyes of Americans. Nonetheless, after the trend was banned, there was a pop-up with a new trend that would serve to be the antithesis of any despicable licks, called Angelic Yields. I honestly love how fast these started popping up, because they were actually a net positive for the trend. It would show people leaving money, napkins, soap, and essentially replacing and fixing things that were previously broken due to the devious licks. I mean, look at him. He even changed out of the Black Forces. I mean, what a chipper fellow. Anyways, this marked the end of the trend, which then became lost in the sands of time. The Bright-Eyed Oh, brother. The Bright-Eyed Challenge had people concoct a mixture of, let me make sure I'm getting this right, jelly, hand sanitizer, bleach, and shaving cream. Side note, what in the absolute hell were these people thinking when they were making this, and what did they expect it to do? Like, I get the bleach part and the reasoning behind it, but what was the grape jelly supposed to do in this situation? I honestly don't know, but anyways. The Bright-Eyed Challenge had people make this cursed slew of chemicals and hold it to their eye. What it was meant to do in these people's eyes...
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
What it was meant to do was make their eyes a lighter shade. They would hold it to their eye for about a minute and gain artificial heterochromia. Not only does this look absolutely stupid, it's dangerous for your eyes, people. I mean, imagine if there were to be a rip in the bag or some of that chemical slurry fell into your eye. You would even have to worry about your eye color anymore because you would be blind. TikTok eventually banned the trend and any hashtags associated with to mediate any damage that could come with the challenge. And luckily, while I was researching, I never saw any articles about someone losing their vision with this challenge. But still, if you want to change your eye color, please stick with contacts. The throw it in the air challenge is a trend that everyone might be familiar with already. This challenge received a lot of mainstream TikTok attention, with high popularity creators such as Larray doing the trend for their accounts. The trend shows a group of people huddled around a circle, while either they or someone on the outside of the circle threw objects above them. The goal of the trend was to see who would either be the last to get hit by something or not flinch. Looking at the videos, this trend was absolutely brutal, to say the least, because I can only imagine how hard these things are that are hitting them, and the reason that the trend is on the chart is because of how susceptible these people are to concussions. I mean, we've seen ladders, suitcases, and signs being thrown. Do you have any idea how hard these things are? I would not risk mental degradation for a TikTok video, but obviously these people would. DIY vampire fangs. When I read this, I assumed it was going to be kids filing down their teeth, and my canines absolutely hated that. I mean, even as I'm reading this, my canines are becoming slightly uncomfortable. It was to my pleasant surprise that this was not the case. What this was is a less harmful, equally stupid trend that people were doing where they would super glue vampire fangs to their teeth. I feel as this video accurately captures the trend in a nutshell.
Hey guys, so I'm a fucking idiot. Got fake fangs for Johnny, so I'm being a full demon. And someone told me to put super glue onto them to help them stick better. Done that and spent the last 2 hours trying to remove the fucking fangs. Honestly thought I was going to go to the fucking dentist or the hospital or something. Instead I just sat there with nail polish remover on my teeth for about 20 minutes. Broke the fangs. Almost pulled my teeth out. So moral of the story is, do not use super glue. My girlfriend's got a bottle, or has a glass of wine here and just trying not to laugh at me. Don't use super glue.
That video belongs on a cringe compilation because, I mean, God, it's unbearable to watch. The guy said he got the idea from someone who said to put super glue on your teeth. Has he never used super glue before or what? Because I genuinely believe the guy genuinely never used super glue prior to that video. Because if you've ever gotten it on your fingers, you know you have to rip off your entire epidermis trying to get it off. He then goes on to say that he put nail polish remover, and yep, you heard me right, nail polish remover on his teeth for like 20 minutes. I know the dude's tooth enamel is breaking down worse than the Berlin Wall, but I mean, luckily he did get the fangs out, but God. The moral of the story is don't put super glue on your teeth. You have to go through that entire experience just to learn that? I think vampire fangs are cool, don't get me wrong. But please, if you're a person that actually wants teeth like these, get it done professionally or just get little covers for your teeth that imitate them. I honestly did not expect this one. Upon initially reading the entry, I assumed it would have been something similar to the cinnamon challenge, but boy was I wrong. Researching this one was definitely a treat because it involved toxicology and endocrinology, which I love immensely. The nutmeg challenge was a viral trend where kids would eat nutmeg and they would trip balls off of it. They would then document their experience and post it for the world to see. It's interesting actually because this isn't some like new discovery, but one that's been known for ages. In the 1500s, there were Europeans who used the spice to supposedly get drunk, but the experience was so strong that they eventually limited usage. The way it works is that in nutmeg there is a compound called myristicin. It interacts with something called the sympathetic nervous system, which controls your fight or flight responses. That means that the high makes your heart go faster, increases blood flow, and most importantly, enhances production of a hormone called norepinephrine. Norepinephrine. which is what causes the high. Norepinephrine is known to activate the amygdala, which is the part of your brain which is responsible for interpreting fears and threats. The myristicin in your body interacts with norepinephrine to metabolize and form a compound called MMDA, which in layman terms is a cousin to MDMA. According to the American Association for Clinical Chemistry, it takes only 5 to 20 grams of nutmeg to intoxicate someone. For reference, the average pumpkin pie recipe only calls for 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. There's this video by YouTuber Chubby Emu where he details a case of a patient drinking a bottle of nutmeg and the aftermath of doing so, but I couldn't find any other sources to prove that this specific case actually happened. But the sources he used in the video are wonderful and provide a reason in this retelling, whether it be false or not. The video will be linked in the description if you'd like to give it a watch. Back on the dangers of this challenge, while researching I did find instances of people dying because of nutmeg poisoning. One case is of an undisclosed 17-year-old male from New York. When his parents called the paramedics, they described him as panicked and disoriented. The paramedics arrived at the scene and reported that the young man was indeed panicked and pacing around muttering to himself. They attempted to ease the young man and provided with an oxygen mask, but the 17-year-old only responded by taking it off. After some back and forth, the young man eventually got up from his position and started throwing up. After the boy calmed down, he was immediately whisked off to the hospital. After questioning and testing, doctors deduced that the boy had not taken any extreme narcotics such as cocaine, speed, or any prescription medication. It was only after the boy admitted to snorting a tablespoon of nutmeg, which is about 14-15 grams, that they were able to treat him. I mean, that is 14 grams of nutmeg circulating through this boy's bloodstream. And if you recall, it is right inside the zone of intoxication. The scariest part of this whole ordeal is that, as of now, there is no cure or remedies for nutmeg overdose. Moral of the story, don't snort nutmeg and just use it for your pumpkin spice lattes. It finally happened. My worst fear has came true. Anytime I hear about these type of things, I automatically think of that one photo with the nail clippers and the teeth, which I am going to show right now, so if you don't like it, I suggest you turn your way in about 5, 4, 3, 2, final warning, 1. For the sickos who chose to stick around and look at it, I generally don't know what's wrong with you. I think this trend is pretty self-explanatory. People filing their teeth into shapes either to make them more straight or more sharp. This is what I thought the vampire fang trend was going to be. Luckily it wasn't, but now I have to deal with this later on down the line. Let's refer to a tooth chart so we know exactly why this trend is dangerous. As we see here, we have what we know as the tooth, the bone on the outside. This can be damaged, and we aren't necessarily worried about this layer. The main cause for concern is what we call the pulp chamber. If you have memories as a child of when you lost a tooth, you may remember kind of like a fleshy, worm-like piece of meat sticking out from where your tooth used to be. This is what we know as pulp. This is actually the main reason your tooth is able to feel things, because this piece of flesh is basically pure nerve endings. Now, imagine as you're filing, you file too hard and you rupture this cavity. Pure nerve endings let loose onto the environment known as your mouth. Here is an example that could help shed some light on why the situation is less than ideal. I think most of us has bitten into an ice cream cone or possibly had something cold in our mouths. I would imagine you would know that sensation. We have a reaction to this temperature change based on our individual tooth sensitivity, which is determined by the tooth health among other various factors. If your teeth are on the sensitive side, you feel kind of like a pain, uncomfortable feeling in your teeth. This feeling is buffered through your enamel and dentine. Now let's remove these layers and put ice on your pulp. That, my friends, is pain that you have most likely never experienced. While teeth filing is a very real thing that dentists do as part of their practice, people believe that they can get their DDS on TikTok for some reason. If you need to file your teeth for whatever reason, and say it with me, consult a professional. Thank you. This chart genuinely surprises me more and more at how low people will go for internet fame. The key challenge is a trend where teenagers would use only a screwdriver and a USB, which I do gotta commend for like the resourcefulness of it, to steal these cars. They would go on to call themselves the Kia Boys and post videos of their hijinks on the internet. The reason that these cars are so easy to steal can be found in the ignition cylinders. This is where your ignition key is supposed to go and where it turns a mechanism to start the car. In other cars, these are protected by either things called immobilizers or intricate designs that make the part that you actually want to get to virtually impossible without dismantling the wheel. Immobilizers work as almost a key for your key. It lets off a radio signal that is paired with your car that only your car recognizes, but there are two issues with Kia that allow them to be more susceptible to thefts. First of all, in order to cut prices, Kia and Hyundai models don't have immobilizers, and the ones that do are on the higher end of the car price spectrum. And the second issue is that the actual ignition cylinder is incredibly easy to get to. All it takes is the dismantling of the ignition entry and you can get to it. This is where the USB comes in handy, because the USB connector resembles the now exposed ignition starter. You simply put it in, twist, and boom. You are now a part of the Kia Boys. Because of the trend, there have been significant changes made to crime statistics. Some of the cities most affected by the Kia Boys are Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Grand Rapids, Columbus, Philadelphia, and Orlando. In Milwaukee alone, more than 58% of all car thefts were a Kia or a Hyundai. Hyundai issued statements saying that in response to the increasing thefts targeting our vehicles with push-button ignitions and immobilizing anti-theft devices in the United States, Hyundai Motor America has made engine immobilizer standard on all vehicles produced as of November 2021. Additionally, Hyundai has taken a series of actions to deter thefts of affected vehicles, including an upcoming software update scheduled to be available beginning in March and provided at no cost to customers. There isn't really much that people can do other than hope that their car isn't next or to buy anti-theft tools such as steering locks. It is incredibly disheartening to see this happening, and I hope this trend dies quickly. With the above entries, I'm surprised that this one is on the chart. Apparently, the Drop 'em Out challenge is a trend where partners flash themselves to their significant others on camera and record their reaction. This would also be accompanied by the track Drop 'em Out by Wheeler Walker Jr. I personally think that this trend is harmless and good fun, but I guess the iceberg is named dumbest TikTok trends and not most dangerous TikTok trends. This trend is another relatively harmless one where it's not exactly the end of the world but can be harmful if done wrong. The back crack challenge is a trend where people get on their knees and put their hands on their heads as if they were getting arrested. Another person would grab these people and stretch them out to hear a string of cracks along their spine. The act of cracking your back and in general cracking your joints is not harmful. Doctors even encourage it because it helps with flexibility and the resetting of the joints. The issue with this trend is the fact that someone else is cracking your back for you. The only people that should be compressing your spine or decompressing it are licensed professionals. Individuals that are not trained may pull too hard or worse and may cause damage in your back that could last a lifetime. In other words, if you're going to crack your back, make sure either you are the one doing it or a licensed professional. We are definitely starting to see a more tame side of this chart. The frozen honey trend is exactly as it sounds. People take honey, freeze it, and then eat it. Nothing more, nothing less. People freeze the honey to make this kind of jelly toffee kind of thing that can be eaten as a snack. The reason the honey freezes like this is due to the high sugar composition of it. The sugar does not allow it to be frozen solid. Most likely, this was only added again because of what the creator thought would be dumb, but at face value, this trend is harmless. The only issues I could find are dentists worried about the tooth health of people that partake in this trend. I'm sure we all know this, but eating almost pure sugar is definitely not good for your teeth. So if you decide to try this one at home, do it sparingly and in moderation. When I was first introduced to this entry, I was already familiarized with the trend. The trend is pretty simple. All it entails is playing the song Die Young by American musical artist Kesha. Once the song hits its defining drums, you subsequently hit a door to the same rhythm as shown here. The actual challenge with this trend is how loud you can be when hitting the door. The louder you are, the better it is. I always perceive this challenge to be relatively harmless unless you were strong enough to break down the door, which at that point it's your own fault. But after researching the topic, I saw that this is not the case. There are instances of people taking this trend out of, friendly antics and turning it into genuine fights. The issue is that people were doing this trend to random people in their neighborhoods. Residents were rightfully scared and call authorities to make complaints or even trying to make arrests. I don't think the issue is the trend itself. I think it's mostly the people that it's done with. The trend initially started with people doing it inside dorm halls. I mean, that's perfectly fine when considering that these students most likely did it to people they already knew. But it eventually evolved out of control to the point where it was now being done to random people, and this is where the issue arises. I can imagine how scary it might be for someone to have that, to experience the loudest door knocks in the world unexpectedly. And I mean, it just goes to show that how something can escalate out of control. The further I go down this list, the more I start to lose faith in humanity. The Orbeez challenge is a trend where people get these automatic toy guns and that dispense Orbeez bullets instead of or the original BP bullets. Then they proceed to do a drive-by style shooting with the gun, assuming it won't do much harm, but according to Mother Brittany Eubanks, that is not the case.
Anything like that, maybe the dance ones, but nothing too crazy.
But Eubanks says some viral challenges on the app are crazy. Her family fell victim to one back in May while she, her husband, and her baby girl were riding on 695. A camera on the back of their car captured the moment a white Honda Accord pulled up next to them.
What the Get their license plate! Get their license plate!
We had our windows down, just, enjoying the weather. All of a sudden, we heard shots and something coming into our window.
That was a gun! It was a gun? Just push up, get away! It was like a BB gun or something. Call 911 right now.
It looked like a gun, but with a bright orange piece at the top. So I guess that means it's not a real gun, but I didn't know that at the time. All these shootings recently, it was horrifying, especially with our baby in the car.
This isn't the only instance of emotional or even physical distress caused by this challenge. 10-year-old Emery Snowden was left bloodied and bruised as a result of being fired on with Orbeez. The issue with these challenges, as we've seen with most other ones in this chart, is that people take it outside of their inner circles, or they stop doing it to friends or family and start victimizing random people. That is not cool, dude. The dipping challenge is another one of those entries that received a lot of mainstream attention. I mean, at least it did in my circles. The dipping challenge goes like this. You dip your boys in soy sauce, and that's it. I don't know what I expected, but yeah, it's literally just this. The reason this became popularized is because of research saying that testicles had taste receptors. Men hearing this obviously were curious, so they would dip their jewels into liquids such as soy sauce or orange juice to see if they could taste anything. When they found out they couldn't, I can only imagine the post-dip clarity that these men must have being half naked with your huevos in a bowl of soy sauce. I think that they would be interested in knowing that not only do testicles have taste receptors, but so do your bladder, your heart, and even your intestines. There are other organs that are lined with these receptors, but let's just be glad they don't work. Actually, it's interesting why we have the taste receptors on our testes. They work in the effort of fertility, as left field as that is. In a study performed by the National Study of Sciences, they found that without these receptors in mice, the mice were rendered infertile. This trend overall was definitely on the brainless side, but I think it's a testament to what makes humanity so great. Our curiosity. The tooth whitening challenge. It's not even about tooth whitening, by the way, because why would it ever be? I don't even think I can explain this one, so here's a video of it. It's like anytime we can innately sexualize anything, we do. I mean, I would chalk it up to maybe a misunderstanding on some of these lovely ladies' parts, but these videos seem so intentionally planned, it's crazy. The title of this trend is pretty self-explanatory. People that participate go to beaches and dig holes as far as they can before they get tired or before they decide to leave. I personally don't find anything wrong with this trend because it's just some light fun at the beach, but as I was doing my research, I found the issue that arises. The issue is that people don't refill their holes. They just leave these ditches there and go back home. Not only is this incredibly dangerous, but it's harmful to the local ecosystem. Sea turtles hatch and lay eggs in the dead of night, and they lack the perception to see these man-made craters. There have been instances of turtles in Florida being found in these holes. Luckily, they were rescued, but that situation could have been avoided if the lovely person who dug the hole cleaned up after themselves. We already leave enough plastic in the ocean for our show having friends. There's no point in making graves for them as well. That is it for this initial part of the iceberg. I want to thank you all for watching and devoting your time to this video. I have a lot more ideas and videos in the works, so be on the lookout for those. If there's anything you want me to cover, make sure to leave it down in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Adios.